Gaming's biggest names are terrified right now, and for once, they're not even trying to hide it. You can see it in their rushed PR statements. You can hear it in the way their lobbyists are suddenly speaking up after years of silence, and you can feel it in the way they've started clumsily defending themselves from something they never thought would gain this much momentum. And that something is Stop Killing Games. Over 1.22 million people have signed the petition. And no, this isn't some niche retro gamer protest about saving a couple of old titles from the early 2000s. This is a movement that's forced the most powerful corporations in gaming to do something they almost never do: acknowledge players as a threat. Because what's happening right now, it's not just about video games, it's about control, it's about ownership, and it's about blowing open a question that could wreck the entire digital economy. When you buy something online, do you actually own it? If you've ever bought a digital game, a DLC, a cosmetic skin, or even a subscription, you've probably noticed something sneaky. On the store page, it says, "Buy now." But in the fine print, it says you've bought nothing more than a license, a revocable pass to access the game, until the publisher decides otherwise. And for years, they've gotten away with it, shutting down servers, locking you out of single-player modes, even telling players to uninstall and destroy their own copies. No refunds, no recourse, just gone. That was business as usual, until now. Stop Killing Games has changed everything. What started as one guy, Ross, launching a petition, has turned into a global movement. And the momentum is terrifying the industry. Think about it. We've seen plenty of online campaigns in gaming before. They trend for a week. They get a few tweets, a few memes, maybe a change.org petition, and then they fade. But this time, it's different. The signatures aren't just trickling in, they're exploding. We've passed the million mark and the numbers are still climbing every single day. And these aren't just anonymous internet usernames clicking sign. We're talking everyone from small YouTubers to massive creators like Moist-Siapbonticle, Asmongold, Jacksepticeye, even PewDiePie, putting their names behind it. When you've got 1.22 million players standing together against an industry that spent decades making sure gamers never organize, that's enough to make even billion-dollar publishers sweat. And they're sweating hard. Because here's the thing about corporations. They don't respond to things that aren't a threat. They ignore most criticism entirely. But Stop Killing Games has gotten so loud, so inescapable, that the rats have started crawling out of the cave to speak up. Not because they want to have a conversation, but because they can feel the ground shifting underneath them. They're starting to realize this might actually go somewhere, that this could make it all the way to lawmakers, that for the first time in decades, players might actually win. And the reaction from AAA publishers has been desperate. They've rolled out lobby groups. They've put PR teams on overtime. They've thrown out every corporate excuse in the book about commercial viability and player safety. Because deep down, they're terrified this isn't just about keeping a few old game servers online. They're terrified we might discover what else they've been hiding in the trunk. This is why Section 1 needs to end with the setup for the real story, the one we'll peel back in the next part. That Stop Killing Games isn't just poking at AAA publishers' profits, it's threatening to pull apart the legal loopholes they've built their entire business model on. If you ever wanted proof that Stop Killing Games hit a nerve, here it is. The most powerful corporations in the gaming industry, EA, Ubisoft, Activision, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Take-Two, Embracer, Epic, have now officially stepped forward to tell you why you're wrong. They didn't send out a casual tweet. They didn't hide behind a generic "we hear your feedback" blog post. They deployed one of their most powerful weapons, Video Games Europe, a lobbying group representing AAA publishers at the highest political levels, to publish a 2,000-word defensive essay trying to kill this movement before it reaches lawmakers. Let's just pause there for a second. Lobby groups exist for one reason: to protect corporate interests when money's at risk. So if they're talking, it's because they see real danger. Their official statement starts with the classic corporate move: "We appreciate the passion of our community. However," that "however" is doing some heavy lifting. From there, they roll out a list of reasons why shutting down servers must be an option for publishers. Games sometimes become no longer commercially viable. Private servers aren't always a viable alternative because they can't protect player data or combat unsafe content. Many games are designed to be online only from the ground up, and forcing offline functionality would make them prohibitively expensive to create. If that sounds reasonable on the surface, that's the point. It's PR copy designed to sound logical while avoiding the real problem. 1. We care about protecting your data. Really? This is coming from an industry that's had some of the biggest security breaches in entertainment history. Sony leaked over 100 million usernames, addresses, and credit card numbers. Nintendo had 300,000 accounts compromised. Capcom leaked 16,000 accounts. Epic's Fortnite breach was so bad they didn't even bother counting. And these are the same companies that force you to create accounts and hand over your personal info. Not to protect you, but so they can track you, market to you, and spam your inbox with ads. 2. Private servers aren't safe. Translation: we don't want players running their own servers because it means we lose control. They're not scared of hackers. They're scared of you playing without their monetization systems in place. They're scared of losing the ability to update your game remotely, add more microtransactions, or change content after launch. 3. It would make games too expensive to create. Here's the thing. Dozens of smaller studios with a fraction of the budget already build their games to be offline capable or allow private hosting. We've seen server code released to the public for older games. We've seen fan-run servers for titles abandoned decades ago. If it can be done by volunteers in their free time, it can be done by billion-dollar companies. They just don't want to because it removes their control over how and when you play. Notice what's missing from their statement. No acknowledgement of the fact that games are sold without clear end-of-life terms. No explanation for why there's no refund process when content is removed. No willingness to commit to preservation for single-player content. Because here's the truth. This isn't about server costs. It's about power. If they keep servers closed source, if they lock single-player content behind online-only DRM, if they maintain total control over access, they can decide exactly when to kill a game. They can push you into buying the next big release instead of letting you keep playing what you already own. The industry's panic isn't about the demands of stop killing games on paper. It's about what happens if lawmakers actually start asking the next set of questions. Why is it legal to revoke access to a purchased game? Why aren't digital products subject to the same consumer protection laws as physical ones? Why can companies change or remove content post-purchase without refund? If those questions make it into a hearing room, the illusion breaks. It's not buy now anymore. It's rent indefinitely until we say stop. And once lawmakers see that contradiction, it won't just be games under the microscope, it will be music, movies, software, every digital good on every major platform. That's the nightmare scenario for these companies. Because if digital purchases are legally recognized the same way physical purchases are, the entire business model they've built over the last 15 years collapses. You know what the funniest part of the AAA defense is? They're still acting like we don't understand what we're asking for. Every statement, every interview, every "we appreciate your passion" blog post comes with that same condescending subtext. You think you want this, but you don't. You don't see the bigger picture. Let us explain why you're wrong. And yet, players see the bigger picture perfectly. We see it every time a game we paid for gets bricked without warning. We see it when content we bought suddenly disappears or gets censored. We see it when buy now actually means pay now. Keep it until we decide you can't. Here's the truth that publishers hate to say out loud. When you buy a digital game, you don't actually own it. You own a license, a glorified permission slip that can be ripped away at any time. That's why they hide behind end-user license agreements, EULAS, nobody reads. That's why they sell products without an expiration date, without a shutdown plan, without even a guarantee the game will exist in 5 years. Because the second you agree to that EULA, They have legal cover to shut down servers, remove core features, lock you out entirely, change the product into something completely different than what you paid for. And here's the kicker. They owe you nothing when they do it. No refund, no warning, no backup copy you can keep. Just, thanks for your money, goodbye. If you think I'm exaggerating, look at Ubisoft. They literally updated their EULA to state that when they end service for a game, you are legally required to uninstall and destroy any copies you have. Read that again. Not only do they take away what you paid for, they want you to erase all evidence you ever had it. It's the gaming equivalent of a landlord evicting you from a house you built yourself, and then asking you to burn it down before you leave. That's not protection. That's not player safety. That's corporate control at a level that's almost cartoonishly villainous. For years, these arguments worked because they sounded reasonable to anyone not paying attention. Servers cost money. We have to keep players safe. It's impossible to preserve every game. But in 2025, the mask has slipped. We've seen indie devs release server code so fans can keep games alive forever. Fan communities run stable private servers for decades-old games with no budget. Studios add offline modes years after release with simple patches. The truth is, preservation is possible. Offline play is possible. Giving players the option to host their own servers is possible. The only reason AAA publishers don't do it is because it removes their leverage. If you can keep playing the old game you love, you're not as motivated to buy the new one they're trying to push. And it's not just about shutting down games. Even when the servers stay up, the product you bought can change at any time, without your consent. They can remove levels, replace characters, alter storylines, delete game modes entirely, and censor anything they decide doesn't fit the brand. Remember Ready or Not? Players bought it because it was an unflinching, realistic tactical shooter. Now, content is being cut so it can pass console ratings. PC players, the ones who funded the game in the first place, get stuck with a watered-down version they never asked for. And again, because of the EULA, they can't fight it. They can't keep the original version. Their only choice is to accept the censored product or walk away with nothing. For years, most players shrugged this stuff off. It felt distant. You heard about a game getting shut down, but maybe it wasn't one you cared about. Now? It's different. We're in the middle of an industry-wide breakdown. $80 price tags, 100 skins, layoffs by the thousands, broken launches pushed out just to hit deadlines, games built entirely around microtransactions from day one. People are fed up. They're not just signing petitions because of nostalgia. They're signing because they're done being treated like disposable wallets. And here's the dangerous truth. In the current system, you are not a customer. You're collateral damage in the business plan. A game isn't killed because the studio can't keep it alive. It's killed because it's more profitable to push you somewhere else. Content isn't censored because of genuine safety concerns. It's censored to meet the marketing goals of a new audience. Everything comes down to two things: control and money. And Stop Killing Games is the first large-scale movement in years that threatens both. If you thought this fight was only about shutting down old games, buckle up, because the rabbit hole goes way deeper. This isn't just about losing access, it's about how the AAA industry has slowly positioned itself as your gatekeeper, your landlord, and now your moral police. And the scariest part? They've done it under the banner of protecting you. Remember when online play just meant connecting with friends? Now, it means handing over your data, your activity, and even your voice to companies that have already proven they can't keep it safe. Let's take Call of Duty as the perfect example. In 2023, Activision rolled out real-time AI voice moderation. That means the second you speak into your mic, their system is listening. Every word is analyzed in real time. One flagged phrase, even a joke out of context, can get you muted, shadow banned, or kicked out entirely. No transparency, no appeal, no record of what you supposedly said. It's one thing when moderation is done by humans who can understand tone, sarcasm, or context. It's another when it's done by an algorithm trained to punish first and ask questions never. And they say it's for player safety. But here's the thing. There's no clear line for what counts as unsafe. Today, it might be slurs or harassment. Tomorrow, it could be criticism of the game itself. Surveillance is only half the story. The other half is control, and nothing illustrates that better than how publishers have started treating mods. For decades, mods have been one of the purest expressions of gaming culture. Players adding content, fixing bugs, creating entirely new experiences, often for free. Some of the most legendary games of all time, Counter-Strike, Dota, Garry's Mod, started as player-made mods. Now, publishers are rewriting the rules to make modding as restrictive and profitable as possible. Capcom's recent update to older PC titles is a perfect example. They pushed out new DRM years after release, specifically to flag any mod as a cheat and block it. It didn't matter if the mod was harmless. It didn't matter if it improved the game. It didn't matter if you owned the single-player version and never went online. Their reasoning? Brand protection. Translation: we can't let you create something that might make us look bad. And this control isn't just about blocking mods. It's about altering the games you already own. Here's how it works. You buy a game because it has a certain tone, style, or set of features you love. Months or years later, the publisher decides those features don't fit their vision anymore. An update is pushed, and suddenly, the thing you loved about the game is gone. It's the same tactic used in Ready or Not, where gritty, realistic missions were stripped out so the game could pass stricter console ratings. PC players who wanted that realism were left with no choice. Accept the censored version or stop playing entirely. No refund. No option to roll back to the old version. No say in the matter. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The same protection they claim keeps players safe is the exact system that gives them full control over what you can do, say, or create. They can shut down your access with a flip of a switch. They can rewrite your game without warning. They can decide which player-made creations see the light of day and which get deleted. And once those powers exist, the temptation to use them for profit instead of safety is inevitable. Because if they can censor mods to protect their brand image, they can also remove features that compete with new paid DLC, delete older content so you need to buy the remaster, ban you for selling items on a gray market instead of their official microtransaction store. It's the perfect business model. They get to look like the good guys while tightening their grip on everything you do. A lot of people still think Stop Killing Games is only about server shutdowns. It's not. It's about control. The reason publishers are fighting so hard is because once you open the door to player rights in one area, preservation, it starts spilling over into all areas. The right to keep your game as it was when you bought it. The right to run your own server if they abandon theirs. The right to mod without corporate approval. The right to play without being tracked, monitored, or censored in real time. These aren't radical ideas. They're just the digital equivalent of what we've had with physical products for decades. To understand why Stop Killing Games even exists, you have to look at how we got here, because this didn't happen overnight. The industry didn't just wake up one morning and say, we're going to strip away player ownership today. It happened slowly, step by step, over decades, and every step was sold to us as progress. If you're old enough to remember the NES, the SNES, the PlayStation 1, you remember when buying a game was simple. You handed over money, you got a cartridge or a disc. That was it. No accounts, no always-on internet requirements. No fine print telling you that you were licensing the product. What was on that cartridge was yours, permanently. If you wanted to play it 20 years later, you could. If you wanted to lend it to a friend, you could. If you wanted to resell it, you could. And if a publisher shut down or disappeared, the game still worked. Then came the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era, and the arrival of widespread online connectivity. At first, it was amazing. Free patches to fix bugs, new features and balance updates after release, digital storefronts that let you buy games without leaving the house, expansions that added more to the game you already loved. It felt like a win for everyone. Publishers could improve their products, and players got extra content long after launch. What nobody noticed was the first red flag. Games were now dependent on the internet. That dependency changed the entire philosophy of game development. Why spend extra months polishing a game before launch when you can release it now and patch it later? And that's exactly what started happening. QA teams were downsized because day one patches became the norm. Games launched in buggy, incomplete states. Content was cut from release versions to be sold later as DLC. The bar for what was acceptable at launch dropped lower every year. All that mattered was hitting the deadline, passing console certification, and collecting pre-orders. While we were getting used to buggy launches, another shift was happening: how games made money. First came expansions, then smaller DLC packs, then microtransactions, then loot boxes, then battle passes, and now. Microtransactions are so bloated they often cost more than the base game itself. Every system that used to exist purely for fun, progression, cosmetics, even basic inventory space, is now a monetization funnel. And because everything is connected online, publishers can change the rules anytime to nudge you toward spending more. Next came the most dangerous shift: making games online only, even for single-player content. Publishers sold it as better anti-cheat or dynamic world events or social features, but the real reason was control. If a game requires their servers to run, they decide when it launches, how it works, and when it dies. It doesn't matter if 10,000 people still want to play. The second they pull the plug, the game is gone forever. And here's the kicker: the same systems that were originally built to support games are now used to censor, modify, and even delete content after you've bought it. Think about that. In the cartridge era, what you bought never changed. Today, the version you buy might be gone next month. We've seen publishers remove licensed music from games years after release, delete entire game modes, replace original voice lines with new recordings, censor dialogue, new costumes, or scenes without player consent. And because of EULAs, you have no legal standing to stop it. When you line up all these changes, the pattern is obvious. Give players something new, get them used to it, flip it into a control mechanism. Online play went from a fun feature to a way to make games dependent on corporate servers. Post-launch updates went from adding content to removing it. Accounts went from being optional to being mandatory data harvesting tools. It's all been a gradual erosion of ownership, so slow that most players didn't notice until it was already normal. This is why Stop Killing Games matters right now. Because if this trend keeps going, ownership in gaming won't just be rare, it'll be extinct. We're already halfway there. Movements in gaming come and go all the time. A bad trailer drops, social media blows up, a petition circulates. And 2 weeks later, everyone's back to arguing about console wars and GPU benchmarks. But this is different. Stop Killing Games isn't just surviving, it's accelerating. And that doesn't happen by accident. Gamers love an underdog story. And this one has all the ingredients. A single creator, Ross, launching a petition almost nobody thought would succeed. A year-long deadline that seemed impossible to hit. A cause that directly challenges billion-dollar corporations on their home turf. At first, most people probably thought, yeah, I'll sign it later. No urgency, no expectation it would go anywhere. But then the numbers started to climb, fast. Suddenly, the finish line was in sight, and people wanted to be part of making history. It's the same psychological trigger that drives last-minute crowdfunding surges. Nobody wants to miss out on pushing a cause over the edge. This movement didn't grow in a vacuum. It's the result of years of Hadawa abuse finally catching up to them. $80 price tags becoming normal. Cosmetic skins selling for over $100. Layoffs hitting thousands of developers while executives cash bonuses. Studios shuttering after one bad quarter. Launches so broken they're unplayable for weeks, sometimes months. People were already fed up. Stop Killing Games just gave them a single clear target for all that frustration. Small content creators started talking about it. Then, bigger ones picked it up. Moist, CR1 Tai Kael, Asmongold, Jacksepticeye, even PewDiePie. That's when the floodgates opened. The EU petition blew past its threshold. The UK petition did the same. And organizers kept pushing for more signatures, warning that spoofed or discarded entries are always a risk. Now, even developers are openly supporting it. Larian Studios staff posting about signing the petition. Indie devs pointing out how easy offline preservation is to implement. CEOs like the one behind Lords of the Fallen publicly submitting their support. That's the part AAA didn't expect. Smaller studios openly breaking rank and calling them out. If this had happened in, say, 2017, I don't think it would have taken off. Back then, loot boxes were the big controversy, and while people were mad, the bigger conversation about ownership hadn't hit the mainstream yet. Now, streaming platforms pull content without warning. Movies vanish from digital libraries. Music gets removed from services overnight. Ebooks disappear from your Kindle without a trace. The average consumer is starting to realize this isn't just a gamer problem. It's a digital ownership problem. And Stop Killing Games has arrived at the exact moment that realization is spreading. Why AAA is nervous. Here's why this terrifies publishers. The current conversation is about online-only games and server shutdowns. But if lawmakers get involved, the scope will expand fast. It will go from, should games have offline modes when servers shut down? To, what does it mean to buy any digital product? And if you start applying ownership protections to games, you can apply them to movies, music, software, the entire digital marketplace. That's a nuclear-level threat to how these companies operate. It's why lobby groups like Video Games Europe are suddenly cranking out 2,000-word defenses. It's why their PR talking points are all about commercial viability and player safety, distractions from the real conversation. The most dangerous thing to a corporation is a movement that doesn't just exist, it grows. Every day this continues, Stop Killing Games gets more signatures, more media coverage, more allies in the industry. And with every new supporter, it becomes harder for the Party A to dismiss it as a vocal minority. The uncertainty is what's killing them. They don't know what will happen if this hits the EU Commission. They don't know what lawmakers will say. And they definitely don't want those lawmakers asking the questions that follow. AAA publishers want you to think this is just about a handful of older games and some angry, nostalgia-driven fans. They need you to think that, because the truth is way more dangerous for them. If Stop Killing Games reaches lawmakers and they actually start peeling back the layers, this conversation won't stop at video games. It can't, because once you ask, why can a company revoke a product I paid for? You're not just talking about Overwatch or Assassin's Creed, you're talking about the movies you own on Amazon Prime, the albums you bought on iTunes, the Kindle books that can vanish overnight, the Adobe subscription that can change terms mid-year. This is bigger than gaming. It's about digital ownership everywhere. The entire modern digital economy is built on one giant loophole. Companies market products as if you're buying them, but legally, you're only licensing them. That means no resale rights, no guaranteed access, no legal protection if it's altered or removed. And it's not just about removing access. It's about changing the thing you bought into something you didn't buy and forcing you to accept it. If lawmakers close that loophole for games, they can close it for everything. And that's the oh shit moment for the entertainment, tech, and software industries. Imagine this chain reaction. EU rules say digital purchases must remain functional offline after service shutdowns. That definition of purchase applies to other digital goods. Suddenly, Amazon can't remove a movie from your library without refunding you. Apple can't delete an app you paid for just because it violates their new policy. Spotify can't strip albums from your playlist without replacing them or paying you back. That's the nightmare scenario. Not because it's impossible to comply with, but because it shifts power back to the consumer. Right now, they hold all the cards. They decide what you can buy. They decide how long you can keep it. They decide what form it exists in. You don't even get a say when the thing you bought changes. If The Godfather was a game, they could replace half the cast tomorrow, add pop songs to the soundtrack, and there's nothing you could do about it. If this loophole is closed, every industry built on the license model loses that control. They'd have to start treating digital products like physical ones, which means actual ownership rights, resale rights, and preservation rights. The timing couldn't be worse for these companies because consumers are already waking up to the scam. People have lost entire movie collections when services shut down. Ebooks have been remotely deleted from devices. Yes, 1984 was famously pulled from Kindles in 2009. You can't make this stuff up. Streaming services routinely yank shows you were in the middle of watching with zero warning. Stop Killing Games is hitting right as people are realizing, wait, I never actually owned any of this. That's the unifying message AAA doesn't want out there, because once you see it in gaming, you start seeing it everywhere. The gaming industry is just the first domino. If they lose control here, they know the next questions will be, why can I not resell my digital movie? Why does my music purchase expire if my account is inactive? Why am I forced into subscriptions for software that used to be a one-time payment? And those questions will lead to legislation that affects every digital business model they've built since the mid-2000s. That's why lobby groups are stepping in early. They're not just protecting games, they're protecting the precedent that lets every other industry operate this way. Here's the thing. Even if Stop Killing Games doesn't win every demand, if it cracks this door open even a little, it could still change everything. One strong ruling about digital preservation in games could be used as precedent for movies, music, software, and beyond. It's not unrealistic to think offline functionality becomes a consumer right. Digital purchases must be honored in perpetuity or refunded. Companies must disclose end-of-life plans at the time of sale. For gamers, that's massive. For everyone else, it's revolutionary. So here we are, a movement that started with one guy and a petition, now sitting at over 1.22 million signatures and climbing. A movement powerful enough to pull billion-dollar publishers out of the shadows and force them to defend themselves in public. A movement that could snowball into something far bigger than even its creators imagined. And here's the truth. Whether or not you've ever cared about game preservation before, whether or not the titles at risk are ones you even play, this fight is about you. Publishers didn't get here by accident. They got here by pushing $80 base prices, charging $100 for cosmetics, launching broken games and patching later, killing live service titles after just a year or two, locking single-player games behind always online DRM, treating customers like disposable wallets instead of long-term fans. Nobody in the boardroom stopped to ask, hey, are we pushing too far? They kept squeezing, confident that no matter how badly they treated players, we'd keep coming back. Well, now we're here, and for the first time, they're seeing what happens when players push back together. This isn't just about bad PR. If Stop Killing Games succeeds in getting consumer protection laws changed, the fallout will be beautifully catastrophic for the current AAA business model. Forced refunds when core content is removed, mandatory offline functionality after server shutdown, legal requirements to disclose end-of-life plans before purchase, clear resale rights for digital goods. All of those things cost them money, and more importantly, they cost them control. It would be easy to look at this and think, even if nothing changes, at least the message got out there. But this time, we're beyond symbolism. The petitions are real. The momentum is real, the pressure is real. Movements die when people assume they've already won or that someone else will carry it to the finish line. That's exactly what AAA is hoping for, that we'll celebrate early, lose focus, and let them ride this out. So here's what we do. Keep signing. Even if the target number is passed, keep going. Spoofed or discarded signatures are always a risk. Keep sharing. The more mainstream this gets, the harder it is for lobbyists to frame it as a fringe cause. Support studios that do it right. Reward devs, indie or AAA, who respect ownership and preservation. Vote with your wallet. Stop buying into systems that strip away your rights. If Stop Killing Games wins, it doesn't just preserve old titles. It sets the precedent that when you pay for something digital, you should actually own it. That's a concept worth fighting for, because if we lose it here, we lose it everywhere. In movies, in music, in books, in software. And once those rights are gone, they're gone. Imagine an industry where Games launch finished because there's no patch it later safety net for bad QA. Single-player titles remain playable decades after release. You can legally run your own server for a game you bought. You can resell digital games just like physical ones. Publishers compete on quality and innovation instead of nickel and diming you into submission. That's not some wild utopian fantasy. It's how gaming used to be. And the only reason it's not that way now is because we stopped demanding it. Stop Killing Games isn't about clinging to the past. It's about deciding what kind of future we want. A future where every game is temporary, every purchase is fake, and every creative work can be rewritten, censored, or deleted at will. Or a future where we actually own what we pay for. Publishers have made it clear which version they want. Now it's our turn to make ours just as clear. So sign, share, speak up, because the moment we stop making noise is the moment they win. And if we keep going, we might not just save games, we might save the very idea of ownership in the digital age.